Yisrael, Acheinu, Kol Beit Yisrael, Anetonim Betzara u'Beshivya, Ahomdim Bein Bayam u'Bein Bayabasha. Hamakom Yerachem Alehem V'yotziem Mitzara Tirvachom Me'apel Leora U'mishibur Ligulash Ta'bagala U'vizman Karim Acheinu Kol Beit Yisrael Acheinu Kol Beit Yisrael Anetonim Betzara u'Beshivya Ahomdim Bein Bayam u'Bein Bayabasha.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome.
Shalom.
It's not been a long time, but it still feels like a bit of return every time we get to use this prayer space, our smaller chapel, for Shabbat services. So we're really glad that all of you who are here with us tonight and all of you who are joining us by live stream are able to fill this space. Well, it's really the last two Shabbats of the year when we don't have Shabbat dinner, it's really nice to see that that's not only, well, what everyone shows up for. So welcome, everybody. We're really glad to have you. For anybody who's not familiar with this space, if you need anything, if you need restrooms or if you need a water fountain, it's straight through the door that's currently closed, or you can loop around. The exits are where we came in through the courtyard. If you need anything, and our greeters are out there if you have any questions that you need answered. This is now officially the end of the month, and the end of any month is always sort of a slide towards what's coming next, and even more so in December when we know that one of our many calendars, secular this time, not quite the Jewish calendar, but secular, is about to turn over in a way that really lets us sort of think back on what's been and think ahead to what's been, to what will be. And that is, of course, what we do on Shabbat also. It's that time that every time we welcome up the little ones for their Shabbat blessing, I always tell them, whatever this week has been, remember that Shabbat is the gift that allows us to take a deep breath and to reset and to reflect and then to project and to think about the week to come. So thank you all for joining us wherever it is that you've come from, spiritually, physically, emotionally, and to wherever it is that the Shabbat will bring you. We're glad that you're here to welcome it with us. We'll start with our blessings over candles, and then Kiddush. Blessings are on page 2 and then page 5.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. May their brightness as their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Kiddush is on page 5. Please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratza banu, b'shabbat kodsho, be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom techila, למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי באנו ובחרת, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, בשבת קודשך, באהבה וברצון, הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת. Amen.
Chaim, you can be seated.
We welcome in Shabbat with songs and psalms beginning on page 12. Lechu niranena l'Adonai, nariya letzor yishenu, nikadma panav betoda, bizmirot nariya lo. Facing page Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash. Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai Baruchu Shemo, Basru miyom leyom Yeshuato, Zapru v'goyim kevodo bechol ha'amim niflotav, ki gadol Adonai, hulam meod, norahu, Kol Elohim, yai rai 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 We turn to page 20 for Lechato D. We'll sing verses 1, 2, and 9. Yadadadadai Lechato D. Yadadadadai Likrat Kala. Yadadadadai P'nei Shabbat. P'nei Shabbat Nekabela. Yadadadadai Lechato D. Yadadadadai Likrat Kala. Yadadadadai P'nei Shabbat. P'nei Shabbat Nekabela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad, ishmihadu el ham yuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, l'shemo tiferet v'litilah. Yadadadai, yadadadadai Lechato D. Yadadadadai Likrat Kala. Yadadadadai P'nei Shabbat. B'nai Shabbat nekabelam Likrat Shabbat lehu b'necha Ki mekor habracha Verosh mikedem nesucha Sok masem b'machshavat tchila Yai-dai-dai, yai-dai-dai-dai l'chadodi Yai-dai-dai-dai likrat kala Yai-dai-dai-dai b'nai Shabbat B'nai Shabbat nekabela We rise for verse 9 and face the door. Bohi v'shalom Ateret bala Gam b'simcha Uv'zola Toch emunei Am segula Bohi chala Bohi chala Yai-dai-dai Yai-dai-dai-dai l'chadodi Yai-dai-dai-dai likrat kala Yai-dai-dai-dai b'nai Shabbat B'nai Shabbat nekabela Yai-dai-dai-dai l'chadodi Yai-dai-dai-dai likrat kala Yai-dai-dai-dai b'nai Shabbat B'nai Shabbat nekabela You can be seated. Well, it's time to invite up all of our youngest congregant tonight to come on up. Come on up. David, you get to represent everybody for their Shabbat blessing. Come on up. And there's maybe some extra Hershey kisses just for you tonight. But no matter what the week has been, no matter what the next week leads to, we are so excited and always thrilled when our youngest ones get to represent for just a little bit and show us those bright lights that bring a little bit more brightness to the world every day. If you happen to be here and you are older than your B'nai Mitzvah but still near one of your parents, grandparents, somebody who loves you, right now, the Torah commands you to get close to them and let them give you a blessing. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Yivarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha Ken yehi ratzon Yaher Adonai panav elecha V'chunecha Ken yehi ratzon Yisa Adonai panav elecha Ve'yasem lecha shalom Ken yehi ratzon We'll continue with our service with Baruch Hu on page 28. Please rise. Yay,
Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Page 31. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. 6 lines up in the Hebrew on page 30.
Umavir yom umevi laila, umavir ben yom uben laila. Adonai tzvot shemo, el chai v'kayam. Tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Amari v'aravi.
As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into that mystery. Page 32.
Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Page 34.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
You can be seated. Ve'ahavta is on page 36.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'otecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom halevavecha Vishinantam levanecha, vidibarta bam, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להוד על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Almost as though it's here to remind us about what's coming with a new calendar year, with holidays, with Passover. The prayer on page 40, Mi Chamocha, primes us up for redemption of all sorts, to find out what it is that we will reflect on at the end of this year, and what it is that we will redeem in ourselves, ask for redemption from others as the year turns over. Page 40 for Mi Chamocha.
Mi Chamocha, Ba'elim Adonai, Mi Chamocha, Nedar B'Kodesh, Nora Tehilot, Oseh B'Eleh, Nora Tehilot, Oseh B'Eleh, Mi Chamocha, Ba'elim Adonai, Mi Chamocha, Nedar B'Kodesh. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גא ישראל. For Hashkivenu, we turn back to our order of service as we sing this prayer together with a modern song that expresses our hopes for this particular moment. One day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day. Sometimes I lay under the moon and I thank God I'm breathing. Then I pray, don't take me soon, 'cause I'm here for a reason. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. Well, when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more wars, and our children will play. One day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day. Ashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leShalom, B'hamidenu Shomreinu leChayim. Ashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leShalom, B'hamidenu Shomreinu V'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim, Ashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, V'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. One day, 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 one day.
Every now and then somebody will text me, email me, find me on social media, and they'll say, can you believe fill in the blank is from fill in the blank number years ago? Which is fun, but also is terrible to get those sometimes, because the other day I got a message from somebody and they said, you remember what the biggest book of 9th grade was? And I said, yeah, because we all read it together for every class, Tuesdays with Maury. 30 years old this year. Yeah, right, sorry. There is, if you've ever read Tuesdays with Maury, you know that at the beginning of each chapter and each section, the author, Mitch Albom, offers little sort of stories from different cultures, different, whether it's religious or it's more folklore, to sort of frame the chapter that's about to come. And there's this one that has stuck with me ever since, about a little wave that's bobbing along in the ocean, just happy as can be, and it's its own wave, and sometimes it gets bigger and sometimes it gets smaller, but it's itself. And suddenly it sees, not too far away, the shore, and all the waves in front of it crashing into it and becoming not themselves. And this wave gets so scared and starts crying out for help, help, help. And a larger wave bobs along and says, what's the problem? And the little wave says, we're all gonna crash. We're all gonna, don't you see, we're not gonna be waves anymore. Don't you see what's coming? And the big wave says, I see some of you nodding because you know this. The big wave says, you're not just a wave, you're part of the ocean. And it's this beautiful frame on what I really do think Jewish prayer is, especially central prayers like tefillah, like the Amidah, because we open with a very personal statement that my mouth, each of our individual mouths will open, that our lips, that our tongues can individually offer these prayers. And yet, from that first opening line on, it's prayers about our community and about each other and about all of us. And so each of us becomes an integral part of the larger community in offering prayers. So we rise on page 46 and following for our own and our communal prayer of Amidah.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi tehillatcha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei hakol, V'zocher chastei avot ve'imahot, U'mevi gevula livnei v'nehem, Leman shemo be'ahava, Melech ozer Moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'ezrat Sarah, Atah gibor l'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atarav lehoshia, Mashiv haruach umorid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofech olim, Umatir hasurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Micha mocha bal gevurot, Umido melach, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה למען אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
You can be seated. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Page 57. We'll read together at the bottom of the page. You are with us in our prayers, our love and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha b'yirah na'avod. Take a few moments now for silent prayer, and we'll return in just a moment to page 60.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. ועל כל ישראל.
page 253. Take a few moments to offer this prayer, this blessing for healing. Mishaberach Avotenu v'imotenu Avraham, Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, v'Yivarech et HaCholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal all those who are ill. If you are holding anyone's name in your mind, in your heart, we invite you now, if you wish, to whisper it out loud. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit. And to that, let us all say, Amen.
Avotenu Avraham, Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel v'Leah, u'yivarech v'yirapeh et hacholim. Elna, Refana, Elna, Refana, Elna, Refana, Elna, Refana, Mishabera, Avotenu Avraham, Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel v'Leah, u'yivarech v'yirapeh et hacholim.
Shabbat Shalom. It's the end of December, as I said earlier, the end of the year, and that means the start of that new year is just around the corner. And like I said, I know that we had our new year a few months ago, but I mean, how lucky are we, us Jews, that we actually have more than one opportunity within the span of a few months to mark such a day, such an occasion on our calendars, and to take a really careful look, some careful stock at our lives and ourselves. Whether it's the 1st of Tishrei or the 1st of January, there's no bad time for anyone to spend a little bit of their emotional capital thinking about who they are, where they've come from, where we're going to, where we wish to go. And as if the calendar date weren't enough to inspire that kind of thinking this week, it turns out that our Torah portion also points us towards a similar process. Parshat Vayigash, this week's Parsha, is the penultimate Parsha of the book of Genesis. And it contains the conclusion, or rather the beginning of the conclusion, of one of the most well-known story arcs in the entire Torah. Continuing from last week's Parsha and the week before, we see 11 of the sons of Jacob in Egypt, procuring food for their family during the height of that harsh 7-year famine which Pharaoh dreamed about and Joseph interpreted. In fact, they are standing in front of Joseph at this moment. But although he recognizes them, and he's been toying with them to see if they've grown into honorable and honest adults since they tossed him in a pit and sold him into slavery all those years ago, even though he recognizes them, they still do not recognize him. Until this week, of course. Seeing and hearing that they have matured and learned from their past mistakes, Joseph finally reveals his true identity to them. And they embrace, and they weep together, and they kiss each other. It's a family reunion. It's reconciliation. And through the dramatic irony that we, the readers of Torah, possess, meaning that we know what the characters themselves do not yet know, this moment is a glimpse of the future of those Israelites and of Jewish history itself, a glimpse of what will unfold in the coming years and generations. This moment, this reconciliation this week, represents the beginning of that migration of the rest of the Israelites from Canaan down to Egypt, from famine to food, from fractured family to reconciled relationships. And thus, it is the beginning of one of the most enduring legacies of Judaism. It is this moment, this parsha, that we take, among others, the value of shalom bayit, of peace in the home, of ahavat mishpacha, of love of one's family. And we place it on a pedestal of sorts of our faith for future generations to emulate. However, what is contained in Vayigash is no neat, simple wrap-up standing alone, a wrap-up of a long-playing family saga. Because alongside this wonderful moment of revelation and legacy is also the start of one of the greatest, and I would argue, the most fun, mysteries within the Jewish text. A mystery of Torah, which becomes a mystery of Midrash, which becomes a mystery of Talmud. Having been told that his beloved son Joseph is still in fact alive and thriving, after all of those years presumed dead, Jacob begins his journey southward to reunite with him and to the rest of his sons. And with him, of course, goes their extended family, the wives, the children, the servants of his own and all of his sons. And as the names of those grandchildren of Jacob and his many wives are recited, the mystery of Vayigash commences. Uvnei Asher Yimna v'yishva v'yishvi uvre'eh v'serech achotam. And the sons of Asher, one of the sons of Jacob, the sons of Asher, Yimna, Yishva, Yishvi, and Beriah, and with them, Serach, their sister. It's the final name, Serach, that starts this mystery. She is pretty important in this moment of Torah, as the generations of Israelites that are migrating to Egypt are listed by name. And as they're listed by name, thus they're listed in some way as being important, noteworthy, enduring. And there are only 2 women named in this entire long list of names. One of them is Dinah, Jacob's only daughter, who just a few weeks ago featured prominently, if ever so briefly, in the Torah narrative, enduring a horrific experience of sexual assault at the hands of another prince. And the other name, the other one female name, the only one of Jacob's female grandchildren to be listed, is Serach, the daughter of Asher. And as such, being named, the rabbis who came forth from the rest of the Jewish people, the rabbis of the Midrash, the Mishnah, the Talmud, and beyond, could not help but infer how important and how wonderful she must be. If you're not familiar with Serach or any of the stories or lore around here, here is a quick crash course, courtesy of our colleague Rabbi Leah Berkowitz. First, Serach bat Asher was the granddaughter of Jacob, and her name is listed not only in this moment of biblical genealogy, but also in the book of Numbers, 400 years in the future of this moment. And because of this inordinately long lifespan, after all, being listed in a genealogy in the present tense means that you're still alive, the ancient rabbis ascribed magical powers to her. They created an origin story for Serach in the Midrash. They stated that she must have been the one chosen to tell Jacob that Joseph was still alive when the brothers sent their word back up to Canaan. And she did so because she was able to do it, and she was chosen because she was able to do so gently. In fact, as she told him this great news, she was playing the harp, the rabbis said, so as to soothe him at the moment that she excited him. And for delivering this message, Jacob blesses her, the rabbis say, with eternal life. All of this comes from a Jewish source, a bit of Jewish literature known as Sefer HaYeshar. Rabbi Berkowitz continues by saying that Serach pops up throughout rabbinic literature to solve mysteries and to settle arguments. When Moses initially arrives in Egypt with his message of redemption, the Israelites first check with Serach to confirm that he is legit. That's what the Midrash writes. That's what the Midrash says. And centuries later, as the rabbis debated what the Red Sea must have looked like when it parted, Serach appears again to them in their present time, telling them, well, I was there, and it looked like lighted windows. And then there's also the story that as the Israelites prepared to leave Egypt, they remembered that in earlier generations, there had been a promise made to carry the bones of Joseph wherever they went to, up from Egypt back to their homeland. But a couple centuries and generations later, they didn't know exactly where Joseph was buried. So Moses asks Serach, the only person still living from that era. And she tells him that the Egyptians had buried Joseph in a metal casket and had sunk it into the Nile. So Moses, with Serach next to him, stands in front of the Nile and declares, "If you show yourself now, it is good, and we will fulfill that promise we made. And if you don't, surely we are cleared from the obligation of the oath that we made." And what happens? Up from the water, Joseph's casket floats, and the Israelites are able to go forward with their exodus. I know, it's like, doesn't sound like it should be in our tradition, and yet it is. And there is so much to be wondered about Serach, and very little to be sure of. But Vayigash is not an anthology of answers. It's a chance, instead, to see different aspects of human relationships playing out at the same time. On the one hand, long-standing tensions and persisting trauma are laid to rest between the brothers. And at the same time, we meet someone new, someone who is beautiful and strange, beautifully strange, who is going to reappear time and time again and fulfill something vital for us, for our people, when we need it the most and when we expect it the least. And so just as all of this occurs on the penultimate Shabbat of the book of Genesis, so too does this parsha come to us on the penultimate Shabbat of 2023. And what a frame it is to use that for the new year. A chance for us to wrap up what needs wrapping up, relationships, responsibilities, gifts, and also to simultaneously, it's a chance to look at what and whom might have gone unnoticed to us thus far, and to wonder what their beautiful mystery is, what's their potential, and what is our potential to fulfill for others. Happy New Year, happy Sylvester, and Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom. We turn to our concluding prayers, page 282, the middle of the page, and rise for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula le'yotzeh bereshit, shelo asanu kigoyei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adam, shelo sam chalkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu korhim, umishtachavim umotim, Lifnei Melech Malchei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu V'nehemar v'haya Adonai Lemelech al kol haaretz Bayom hahu Yehi Adonai echad Oshemo echad.
We think now of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. As you hear any of these names with whom you might be linked in family or in friendship and love of any kind, it's our tradition here, our custom at Touro, that we invite you, if you wish, to rise when you hear their name so that we can honor you and then rise together after the list is complete to recite Kaddish together. As a community, we observe this period of Shiva, the first 7 days, following the deaths of Barbara Panitz Leeds and Audrey Zimmerman. This period of Shloshim, 30 days, following the death of my beloved teacher, Rabbi David Ellenson, Cantor Judith Borden Ovadia, June Pays Listel, Dixon Singleton, Izzy Sherman. And on this Shabbat, we recall the names of those who died this time in years past. Julia Simon Ahrens, Ruth Israelson Adiger, Leslie Ann Samuels Bonn, Amy Linker Bonoff, Dr. Samuel B. Fellman, Elise Yarrett Fishman, Ernest S. Frank, Mrs. Leon Frank, Joseph D. Friedman, Louise Hirsch Friedler, Jonathan Glickman, Babette Cohn Golden, Gertie Goldstein, Louise Goldman Kaplan, Morris Kyle, Fanny Lobb, Maurice A. Markley, Albertine Marks, Esther Haspel Mayer, Elkin Moses, Philip F. Phillips, Albert Regenbogen, Sadie Bersutsky Slimmer, Adolph Lewis Stiebel, Douglas Norman Weinreb, and William Young. If there are any other names that you'd like to add as my eyes and hands come around, please be welcome to say them out loud or to hold them into your own heart. Zichronam livracha, may each and every one of their lives always be for a blessing. Page 294, we rise as a community and recite together, Yit Gadal, V'yit Kadash, Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach yirutei, V'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon, V'yomechon, B'chay Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'gala u'vizman kariv imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mivarach le'alam u'almei almaya, Yit barach, v'yishtabach, v'yit pa'ar, v'yit romam, v'yit naseh, v'yit hadar, v'yit alev, v'yit halal, shemei dekudusha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, da' miran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, Hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all of Israel, to which we say, amen. You can be seated. It's our very great pleasure to share the Bima tonight with Kathy Shepard, teacher of generations. Anybody in here Kathy's student at any point? There we go. Oh. Yes. For a couple of Shabbat announcements. Dr. Shepard.
Yeah, don't start that. Thank you. No, none of my kids are here tonight. Shabbat Shalom. I'd like to thank Julie Silbert, our greeter for this evening. Thank you, Julie. Also like to thank our sponsors for tonight, for the sponsors of the beautiful pulpit flowers in memory of Gertie Goldstein by Martin Goldstein and family, and in loving memory of Elise Y. Fishman by Ann Fishman. We'd also like to thank the sponsor for tonight's Shabbat live stream in memory of Sadie Slimmer and Douglas Weinreb by Stacy Weinreb Lutz and John Lutz. Shabbat morning begins with Torah study at 9 a.m. Thank you to Stephen Levine for leading the discussion this week. Contemporary Shabbat morning service begins at 10:30 a.m. here in the chapel. Touro is planning a solidarity and learning mission to Israel in February of 2024. The trip will be brief and jam-packed with powerful experiences that will cultivate understanding, and create opportunities to pay the Shiva calls so many of us feel compelled to pay, to bear witness to the pain, the loss, and the strength of our people and all inhabitants of the land. We invite all in the congregation to learn more and fill out our interest form that can be found in your congregational emails. Just a couple of important reminders. Touro's office will be closed for winter break, Saturday, December 23rd, that's tomorrow, through Monday, January 1st. There's no disruption to our Shabbat services and to our study schedule. And also, there will be no Shabbat dinner tonight and Friday, December 29th. There will not be a Shabbat Nash on Saturday, December 23rd and Saturday, December 30th. But as Rabbi Silverman said, we're so glad to see so many of you here tonight, even though we're not feeding you. So, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
The most prominent announcement is written twice. There is no food these 2 weeks. Like, we know where our priorities are. We will just welcome again to all of you. If this is your first time or not your first, but maybe the first in a while, we'd love to say hello to you before we all leave. Also, like we said, we'll be here for Shabbat services tomorrow morning and Touro study, but if you're not planning on coming, don't leave anything here. The office will be closed all week long. But of course, if anybody needs to reach staff in any emergency, we will be available. Just call the office number and you'll be connected. We will close tonight with Adon Olam on page 321. Please rise.
Adon Olam Hashem Allah B'terem ko Yetzir Nivra Leit Nasa V'chafzo kol Azai Malach Shmo Nikra Ve'hakare Kiklot HaKol Levato Yimlok Nora Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Ofer Ve'hu Yeh B'tifara Adon Olam Hashem Allah B'terem ko Yetzir Nivra Leit Nasa V'chafzo kol Azai Malach Shmo Nikra Ve'hu Hakar Ve'in Sheni Lehamshilo Le'akbira Beli Reshit Beli Tachlit Velo Ha'oz Ve'hamizra Adon Olam Hashem Allah B'terem ko Yetzir Nivra Leit Nasa V'chafzo kol Azai Malach Shmo Nikra Ve'hu Eli Ve'chai Goli Ve'tzor Kadli Be'etzara Ve'hu Nisi Humanos Li Menot Kosi B'yom Hekra Adon Olam Hashem Allah B'terem ko Yetzir Nivra Leit Nasa V'chafzo kol Azai Malach Shmo Nikra Ve'yado Afkid Ruchi Ve'tishan Ve'ayira Ve'imnu Ki Geviati Adonai li v'lo yira Adon Olam Hashem Allah B'terem kol Yetzir Nivra Leit Nasa V'chafzo kol Azai Malach Shmo Nikra. Shabbat Shalom.
We don't have any motzi, but I do have extra Hershey Kisses. You all earned one. Come on up and grab one if you'd like.